So within our sample, there's a lot of evidence that I haven't even couldn't even begin to tell you today. But I do want to give you a little bit of some of the things you can do, some of the conclusions. Now, I want to be careful because I don't want you to go off here and say, Darrel made all these gigantic conclusions. The evidence that we have suggests certain directions, certain things about human beings once they leave religion. We're still analyzing the data. I don't think our conclusions will change any because the data is just so strong. But there is room for wiggle here. And read our report and digest it yourself. And there's, of course, we know there's room for criticism. No survey, no research is perfect. But we think this is worth starting a dialogue about. One of the things we found is one of the best things you can do, at least according to our research, our study only, was the best thing you can do for your sex life is leave religion. Your sex life will improve, or your satisfaction around sex will improve. And there's some distinction you can make. Don't marry a religious person in the first place. Our survey, and I didn't show you any graphs on this, but our survey shows the more religious, if you're a secularist, the more religious your spouse is, the less satisfied you are with your sex life. And it's almost linear. The more religious your spouse is, the less satisfied you are. The less religious your spouse is, if you are an atheist married to a Unitarian, you are probably having great sex every night. But if you're married to a Baptist or a Mormon, forget it. You're getting it once a year whether you like it or not.
Wow.
So, Episcopalians and Unitarians are good people to marry. They're kind of Christianity light, aren't they? Spouse's religiosity. If your spouse if you would rate your spouse as an 8, 9, or a 10, you have a 76% chance of being very dissatisfied with your sex life. So that's what we did. We asked people, how religious is your spouse? And what we found is if they're rating their spouse that high, their own sexual satisfaction is pretty low. The more religious your spouse, well, I've already said it. So, but there is some intervening variables that we need to consider. Religion isn't the only variable here, and that's why I want to be cautious in this interpretation. People do have a tendency to more conservatism just in their personality, or more liberalism in their personality. We know that. Personality research shows that. So we may not just be seeing the impact of religion, we may be seeing the impact of a certain personality style too. And Amanda and I did not look at that component of it. So I want to say there may be a third variable here that we did not test for. So that's why this is a correlation, and we can't say for sure that it's causation. Correlation is not causation. You guys know that term, right? All right. Well, I want to be as clear as possible here. I don't want anybody going out here and saying, well, Darrel says that this is always because of that, because I'm not saying that. There seems to be an inverse relationship between the sexual satisfaction and spouse's religiosity. Sexual guilt does little to change behavior. Our research shows there is almost no change in behavior based on religiosity. You can be as religious as you want, you're still going to go out and screw people at 15 years, 16 or 17. You're still going to start masturbating at 12 or 13, and the only difference is you are going to feel guilty as hell about it if you're a Baptist, and if you're a non-religious person, you're going to have much, much less guilt. But you're both going to be doing it just as much. Because biology happens. Biology happens. The hormones are rushing through your blood. You have very little real control over that. So, whether you're a bonobo ape, a chimpanzee, a human being, a gorilla, orangutan, we all have very strong sexual tendencies. And biology happens. So, we think that, learn to accept yourself as a sexual being. Talk openly with your partner. We found that sexual satisfaction was pretty strong among people who said they could communicate with their partner. Assert your right to explore and be who you are as a sexual being. If you're related to a religious person who thinks oral sex is wrong and sinful and you're going to hell, then they're probably going to try and put that guilt trip on you. Do you have a right to explore your own sexuality? And if you're married to that person, you better renegotiate the relationship or think about it, because is your happiness, what's going to happen to you in your own happiness? Are you going to end up getting a divorce? Or maybe there's an opportunity to talk that you have not taken. You just assumed that they were uptight about her. They made a comment 10 years ago, and you've never opened the subject again. So try doing more negotiation with your partner, and perhaps you can make some headway. People do change and see new ways of being as they grow older. Recognize that religion is designed to create guilt about normal and natural things. You may still be guilty. You may be a raving atheist, but still be guilty about something you were taught when you were a kid. I have a very good atheist friend, known for quite a few years. He says there's still things about sex I really have to work hard to not avoid, because my partner loves them, but it turns me off. And it's turned me off because my Methodist mother told me it was wrong. So, sex is religion's weak spot. I think we talk about debating religionists all the time, but I found something interesting. Religionists cannot talk about sex. They will debate whether God exists all day long. But you ask them anything about this. For example, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So it's the weak spot. And I think we should follow the gay community. Have you ever noticed that gays are about as open about their sexuality? Do you notice just how open a lot of gay people are? Well, why can't we be like that? What's wrong? There you go. What's wrong with hetero people being just as open about their sexuality? I am in awe and admiration of the gay community. They've not only come out and said, we are here and you can't ignore us anymore, but we're going to act like we want to act. You can't tell us, because I'm gay, I don't have the right to act the way I want to act, walk the way I want to walk, hug and kiss the person I want to hug and kiss. That is their right, their privilege, their right in this culture and in this United States. And I think we have the same right. Let's stop hiding our sexuality. And I see lots of atheists acting like they're still Christians when it comes to, oh, I dare not mention that in public. Well, our gay friends mention it in public, and they're still surviving, and they're doing quite well. All right. So take the lesson from them. Read Dan Savage, or listen to Dan Savage. If you haven't listened to Savage podcast, awesome podcast. Greta Christina, awesome. I heard her speak 2 weeks ago at American Atheist Convention. She brought the house down. She is lesbian. She's a great blogger. She's very open about her sexuality, and I love that. I think that is so liberating for people to get over the hang-ups that they learned from their religion. Talk publicly about sex, of course, within reason. I'm not, there's certain words and things I shouldn't be using in public. But, whether you're a Hindu, a Muslim, a Buddhist, and yes, Buddhists are pretty uptight about sex. Don't let anybody tell you different, especially the ones that aren't in California. Californians will have you think that they're the only ones that know how to do Buddhism. But Vietnamese are pretty uptight about sex, as are the Thai. But it's sex, all those religions are very dependent upon oppression and fear around sex and sexuality. Ask questions. Did you know that 95% of Americans have sex before marriage? Your minister probably has sex before marriage, but he tells you not to. What's that all about? That would be kind of an interesting question to ask one of your Christian friends. Do you think your minister used condoms with his 2 Bible college girlfriends? Nobody's asking those kind of questions, but I think they need to be asked. Because that person was engaged in premarital sex, he won't admit it, but he wants you not to have it, and he wants you to not use condoms. Does your priest masturbate, or does he use porn? When I was still in clinical psychology, I had 2 priests come to me, and they described themselves as having a masturbatory addiction and a porn addiction. As I worked with these 2 priests over a period of months, I couldn't find anything wrong with them. They were normal human beings, normal males, acting like normal males do. But the Pope said they can't act like that. So they were depressed and upset. I don't know that it ever helped them, but it was heartrending to work with these 2 people who were behaving like normal primates, humans, Homo sapiens. Here's some theological questions to ask. Are there souls in zygotes? Which zygotes get the souls? For every live birth, a woman has several zygotes that never implant and grow. Did they have souls? Now let's challenge them on their own ground. These right-to-lifers don't talk anything about that question. And there's hundreds of eggs, hundreds of babies, hundreds of natural abortions that are happening. And we're not saying, look, you can't get by with that. We're not going to let you get by with that debate. So here's some secular advice, and then we'll wind it up here. Sex is fun. Drinking is fun. You ought to do them both responsibly. And they are dangerous. They have consequences. And I think as secularists, we can talk out loud about this. We don't have to mumble. We don't have to hide our sexuality and our desires. We can talk very frankly about it. And it's just so refreshing to hear atheists talk out loud and openly about their sexuality. Now, you listen, just take the model I mentioned earlier for the gay community. I think they've got a lot going on there. We have knowledge and ability to make good decisions and have fun doing one of the most rewarding activities that nature gave us, sex and sexuality. But last and most important is we are responsible for our actions. There's no invisible sky daddy up there watching over us that we have to ask forgiveness from. The only person we have to ask forgiveness from is ourselves and the person we hurt. So we've got to be cognizant of that. It is our moral obligation to be aware of our sexuality and how it impacts other people. I would ask if you're interested, my next book will be coming out sometime in the fall or a little bit later. It's going to be called Sex and God, How Religion Distorts Sexuality. And parts of this research will be in it, but a whole lot more. And I've got a sign-up list there in the governor's room if you're interested. Put your email on there and I'll let you know when it comes out. If you're interested in recommended reading around this topic, look at 3 books that I think are excellent. The first is The Myth of Monogamy by Barash and Lipton. The next one, Sex at Dawn, is I think one of the best books ever written. I think both these books are 2 of the best books ever written. You will be blown away by the research in this stuff. But Sex at Dawn with Ryan and Jeff. And lastly, Ethical Slut. I could give you a lot more than these, but you read these 3, you'll have your mind blown. You'll change your mind about a lot of things. And so, on May 15th, we will be releasing all the results of the Sex and Secularism survey. You'll be able to get online and download it. It'll be announced. Hopefully, we'll get some bloggers to announce it. If you read some of the major bloggers, you'll be able to download it. We got 1 minute for questions, and then I'm going to 3 minutes. Whoa, we can really go. 3 minutes for questions, please. Stand up and keep the questions short. If anybody's got a question. Hemet, coming on, Hemet. Hidden, yeah. Speak loud.
Yeah, so I applaud you for bringing this data out, and it is amazing that it's more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
It's more of a comment than a question. That it's amazing that I want to be a sex therapist when I grow up. And in my residency program for the last 18 months, every week we have an expert that comes and talks to us. At the bottom of the thing, they would tell us, what would you like to know more about? So for 18 months, every week after week, I'm writing, bring us a sex expert to talk to us about sex. And no, we can't have that. So we have a patient that was caught masturbating, and they have me go talk to him. And I said, well, did you use a wet towel? And he goes, yeah. I said, what did you want?
Sorry, not to cut you off. Now, any questions for Darrel?
So if you could come and talk to our school, and that would be just great. And I applaud you for great research.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions?